All right, now we get into the heavy lifting of our actual editing work, our actual photo development work. Because we've sorted them all now into their different tones, their respective tones, we're now going to go through each of the tones and we're going to build presets for that specific tone. So if I now go into my my star ratings and select first star, which is window light, which is the morning getting ready stuff, I'm going to go through and I'm going to select an image that I like, because I always find it easier to work on an image that I like, and I'm going to edit this image as if I was finishing it. Okay, so the same way that you edit currently. With the highlights, the shadows, the whites, your develop panel, your develop module within Lightroom, I want you to go through and make this image as good as you freaking can. Make it awesome, okay? The highlights, the shadows, the way that you want your images to look, even so far as to selecting your saturations and your luminances within, your color panel. Any split toning that you want to do, try to get this image as far to finished as possible. Everything from your noise reduction, your sharpening, if you want profile corrections on your lenses to give it, to correct the distortion of the lens. Anything that you want to do to this image, I want you to do. Then, when you're finished, I want you to zero out the exposure and put the white balance back to as it is shot. So in other words, you're going to do things to everything you want to within the develop module, except for exposure and white balance. So you can finish the image as you want using all of those different methods, all the exposure and make it exactly as you want. Then I want you to zero out or back to as shot with white balance and a zero exposure on the exposure. And I want you to save that preset into your number one naming scheme that you're going to come up with. So for me, the window light or getting ready, that preset is the number one for me. And when you make all your adjustments, okay, so I've made a bunch of adjustments, which looks terrible, but just for explanation, what you're going to do is you're going to click this button here, the plus sign under the presets, and you're going to create a preset. You're going to create that preset to be so no white balance, no exposure, but the preset is going to be 01 window light. Okay, and then you're going to make that preset. You can say create, and that'll come up where you want it, and you can organize these into whichever way you want. I've got mine under a wedding folder. So for instance, if I have now made my changes and select my window light adjustment, I can then tweak the specific exposure and the white balance that I want for that particular image. Okay, I don't want you doing it within the develop module, just for actually making your presets so that you can see that it's working properly. Then I want to, once you think you love it and you think you've got it right where you want it, I want you to go back through some of the other images within this tone and test it, and test that preset to see if it's where you want it. Okay, I like where it is, except it's a bit warm, okay, and it's a bit dark. Otherwise, I am quite pleased with it. Okay, so go through number 1 and then number 2 and number 3 and 4 all the way through your list and create yourself presets for each of the different tones that you have within your wedding. Now, just a couple of notes while you're going through. You're trying to get this image as far to completed as possible. I understand that there are images that you're going to want to add a gradient to, that you're going to want to brush some, that you're going to want a circle gradient to. I want the overall image to be as close to finished as possible. So if it doesn't need a radial filter, if it doesn't need a graduated filter or a brush, then with that click and the adjustment of the brightness and temperature, you should have a finished image. We're going to address those specific changes, those local changes in a later video. So don't worry about the local adjustments just yet. We will address that later. Another note is that if you're not sure how to go about building your preset, or you're not sure how to edit the image, one of the things you can do is start with one of the, maybe a purchase preset that you've used, or something that you like for that image, and then tweak it based on how you want it. Then save that new preset for those particular types of photos. And the first time that you go through this with a wedding, you're going to have to do this to each of the different tones. And then, maybe 2 weddings later, it's different. It's a barn wedding instead of a city wedding, and you're coming across a different type of image or a different type of tone that you want to edit differently. That's great. Take the time to make a new preset that is fit for you and for the way that you shoot and for your weddings. Also, when we look at some of the images and look at our details, the pictures can hold more saturation. They can hold more clarity and contrast to bring out those different details. Don't be afraid to push detail images to the best that they can be, knowing that completely different to that is images that you're going to be processing with skin. So make each of the different tones that you have within here as good as they can possibly be, so that when you're applying that preset to the entire tone category range that you have, that you're creating the best quality product that you can. If you're really not sure where to start with building presets, we also have below this video a link to some of our presets that we use daily that'll give you a really good starting point. We advise not just using a preset and pointing and clicking that you've purchased. Use it as a base as to where you want your image to go. The look that you want your images to have, the feel that you want them to have, whether it's in the tone curve that you're adjusting, if there's some split toning or some specific enhancements to color. Go ahead and make it your own, but I've included some presets for you to get started with to be able to get you to have results quickly. And as you go, if there's something you don't like, just make the adjustment, save it in the preset, and continue with it next time. As you continue through your weddings, you'll find yourself tweaking less and less and perfecting it more and more to the point where it becomes automatic for you. Now, this course isn't designed specifically to be a tutorial on how to edit, to achieve the look that you want, how to maximize Lightroom to get what you want, and the editing through Photoshop. We're going to touch on it a little bit, but that's covered more in detail in our one-on-one coaching programs and in our soon coming editing video that's going to talk specifically about how to get a look that you want. But some notes. This panel right here, the highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks, is incredibly powerful. Play with that. The tone curves is awesome. The way the lights and the darks work, how they preserve your highlights and your shadows, and can give you the contrast and interest that you want, is awesome. And then this panel right here, the hue, saturation, and luminance panel, is incredibly powerful for selectively coloring, bringing into to focus the things that you want to see and minimizing the things that you don't. If you wanted to be more focused on the bride and groom, just simply taking down your greens, darkening them, is automatically going to make some significant changes. So go ahead and play around through all of these. If you need help with these things, please let us know. We are here to help. But Lightroom is an incredibly powerful tool, and then you can get a whole lot of look out of the highlights and shadows split toning panel. So this is a great place where you can adjust your look to be just the way that you want. Sharpening, noise reduction. I recommend having some sharpening and noise reduction in what you're doing. Again, everybody's taste is a little bit different, so I'm not going to give you specific numbers, but we certainly use that. But play around. Make this a challenge. Try to get your image as absolutely best as possible within the develop module within Lightroom.